With the amount of pseudosciences out there, it's of little surprise that gender-critical fascists have adopted said corruption as a means of undermining the broad scientific consensus with regards to trans healthcare. After all, when reality has a left-leaning bias, what can the right do? Well, they can lie. That's about it, as we'll see today. But before we do, a quick content warning for the following. Transmisia. If our work has helped you, please consider supporting us via Patreon so that we can keep the channel running. You can also help us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media. Hi there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and today we're here to talk about the WPATH files, who published them, and why they flopped. This video began as a chapter for another video I am currently working on regarding former comedy writer turned full-time anti-trans fascist Graham Linehan, but it reached a point where I felt a short standalone piece would be better. I'm trying to keep our videos a little shorter, and this is one of the ways I'll be doing that. With that noted, let's begin, starting with what the WPATH files actually are, namely a paper published by Environmental Progress back in March of this year. Environmental Progress is a far-right opinion mill that spends most of its time attacking climate science and renewable energy, yet sometimes creeps into other areas. The paper was written with the intent of discrediting the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, or WPATH, standards of care. Now, if you haven't heard of the WPATH files, that isn't all that surprising. Unlike the CAS review, which we have previously debunked on this channel, the WPATH files wound up having very little staying power, at least for the most part. This can, in part, be attributed to the source of the paper. Not only is Environmental Progress a known far-right opinion mill with a long and sordid history of publishing quackery, but its founder, Michael Schellenberger, someone who worked on the WPATH files alongside its named author, Mia Hughes, was caught editing legal documents to fabricate evidence just over a month after the WPATH files were published. As journalist Brian Mittier summarized, quote, "On April 3rd, Michael Schellenberger tweeted a series of excerpts from emails by ex-executives dubbed Twitter Files Brazil, which alleged to expose crimes by Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes. Moraes, he claimed, had pressed criminal charges against Twitter Brazil's lawyer for its refusal to turn over personal information on political enemies. Elon Musk quickly shared the tweets and they viralized and were embraced by the international far right to the joy of former President Bolsonaro and his supporters. A week later, Estela Aranja, former Secretary of Digital Rights in the Brazilian Justice Ministry, revealed rot at the heart of Schellenberger's narrative. The only criminal charge filed against Twitter Brazil referenced in the leaked emails was made by the Sao Paulo District Attorney's Office after the company refused to turn over personal data on a leader of Brazil's largest cocaine trafficking organization, the PCC. Schellenberger had cut the section of an email about Sao Paulo criminal investigation and mixed it with communications complaining about Moraes on unrelated issues. Pressed by Brazilian reporters, Schellenberger wrote, "I regret my mistake and apologize for it. I don't have evidence that Moraes threatened to file criminal charges against Twitter's Brazilian lawyer." End quote. So not only was Environmental Progress a known far-right opinion mill at the time the WPATH files were published, but Schellenberger was soon caught out editing legal documents, casting doubt on everything he and his organization published. This meant that anytime people brought up the WPATH files, others were quick to point out Environmental Progress's proven history of lying to prop up their agenda. That's one of the reasons their quackery was discounted so quickly. As for the WPATH files themselves, not only do they share the same shaky origins as the Twitter Files Brazil, but they fail to demonstrate any form of medical malpractice by those following the WPATH standards of care. In fact, so starved for evidence of any wrongdoing, the opinion piece presents low regret rates among trans people who have medically transitioned as proof that they must secretly regret it, stating, quote, "People who embark on sex trait modification interventions often sacrifice their health, fertility, sexual function, and healthy body parts in the quest to find peace in their bodies. It's highly probable that, despite experiencing unfavorable outcomes, severe complications, and a clear adverse impact on their ability to establish intimate relationships, many will persist in convincing both themselves and others that their decision was not a mistake. This reluctance to acknowledge regret may stem from a reluctance to confront the consequences of their choices. Indeed, the early Dutch clinicians were well aware of this possibility. In the first follow-up study of patients who at the time were referred to as transsexuals, conducted approximately 15 years after the Netherlands began offering sex trait modification interventions, the majority of participants reported being happy and feeling no regret, despite researchers noting that improvement in actual life situations was not always observed. In the 1988 paper, the researchers considered the possibility that, in an effort to reduce cognitive dissonance, participants who had undergone hormone and surgical interventions simply cannot accept the notion that all has been in vain. The self-reported happiness may have been distorted wishful thinking. As already shown, studies that don't rely solely on self-report but instead measure factors such as social functioning and mental health status indicate far less positive outcomes. When more people regret knee replacement surgery than penis amputation, or more women regret undergoing prophylactic mastectomies for breast cancer risk than gender-affirming mastectomies, these surprising outcomes should raise red flags in a medical organization dedicated to scientific truth. Rather than being proof that sex trait modification surgeries are the cure for gender distress, these low regret rates are a cause for investigation." End quote. Emphasis added by me. What the WPATH files have done here is invent an ad hoc excuse as justification to ignore what evidence we have available, since said evidence entirely contradicts their hypotheses that transition is harmful and constitutes medical malpractice. After all, if the overwhelming majority of trans people are satisfied with their medical transition, which they are, there is no scandal by definition. In inventing such an ad hoc excuse, environmental progress have created an unfalsifiable position, making said position pseudoscientific by definition. All hypotheses in science must be falsifiable, since that is the very basis upon which they are tested. That is at the very core of the scientific method, revealing environmental progress's ignorance or dishonesty on the matter. Now, considering environmental progress falls itself as a reputable science-led organization, we can conclude that it is dishonesty and not simple ignorance which is at play. We also see this dishonesty in their reference to the Dutch study and how its participants reported high levels of satisfaction in spite of researchers noting that, quote, "improvement in actual life situations was not always observed," end quote. What environmental progress cut out, however, is the very same paper's conclusion that, quote, "taking into account that the elevation has been marginal and does not warrant far-reaching conclusions, we assume that the research findings do not indicate that the reported subjective well-being should be regarded as unreliable or misleading," end quote, blatantly misrepresenting their sources, just like with the Twitter files Brazil. Yet there's a more fundamental problem here, and that is the fact that, far from being a problem, I say that this is a demonstration of good science. Why? Well, because it means the satisfaction, by which I mean not a single person in the Dutch study regretted medically transitioning, is not the result of extraneous variables, i.e., things other than what we seek to measure, impacting the results. Imagine a hypothetical scenario in which a trans person medically transitions, only for them to suddenly have a new job that pays twice as much, a new partner who loves them, and all their health problems went into spontaneous remission. Suddenly, their life is so much better, making them happier and more positive in general. In such a situation, it is possible for a portion of that happiness to spill over, influencing their perception of their transition, meaning the researchers could end up measuring the impact of their life improving in ways separate to their transition, when all thereafter is the impact of the medical transition. Yet, as the study noted, this was not the case. The quality of life remained the same for many of the individuals, yet the satisfaction rates stayed unanimous, meaning the positive response is almost certainly the result of the transition itself rather than anything else, giving the study a high degree of validity. This is good science being presented as cause for concern, once again revealing environmental progress's quackery. Now, this isn't the only issue with the WPATH files. There are hundreds more, but it certainly demonstrates just how bad they are empirically speaking. Thankfully, the WPATH files fizzled out rather quickly, unlike other pseudoscientific papers, but there are people still referencing them, as we'll see in the next video, hence the need to at least acknowledge them in some form, as late as I am. Though what do you think? What are your thoughts on me breaking stuff up into smaller videos? What do you think about environmental progress and its founder? What are your thoughts about the section of the WPATH files we covered today? Did you notice something I missed? If so, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you appreciate what we do here and want to help keep us running, please consider becoming one of our wonderful patrons who make our work possible. You can also make a one-time donation via PayPal or Super Thanks on YouTube. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Hannah Banghart, Goddess Alita, Sosh Daniels, Flynn, and Higgins the Seagull. And for myself, Adita and Levi, take care now.